Kelly Wilkinson was born in August 1993 in Queensland, the daughter of Reg Wilkinson, alongside her siblings, older sister Danielle, and sisters Emma and Natalie. She grew up on the Gold Coast. People who knew her used the same handful of words without needing to compare notes first. Warm, funny, quietly determined. She wanted, plainly, to love and be loved. Her family said that about her without decoration, because it didn't need any. At 18, she met an American online, Brian L. Johnston, from Ohio, a former United States Marine. It moved fast. Kelly relocated to Ohio. They married within 4 months of meeting. They had 2 children together in the United States. In mid-2017, Kelly brought the children home to Australia and told people the marriage was over. Within months, Johnston followed her across the world. They reconciled. They moved in together in Elanora, on the Gold Coast. In 2019, they had a 3rd child, a daughter. What Kelly did not tell most of the people around her, what she carried privately for years, was what the marriage had actually been like behind its front door. She held on to that for a long time. She held on to it until she couldn't hold it by herself anymore. That moment came on a bike ride. 7 weeks earlier, Kelly and Danielle had lost their mother, Karen, to a sudden brain aneurysm. Karen was 55. The sisters were still raw from it, still finding their footing in a family that had just become smaller when they went out for a ride together on the Gold Coast. An ordinary thing, the kind of thing you do to feel normal again. On that ride, Kelly told her sister she was scared. She said that if something happened to her, she wanted someone to know. What came out was years of accumulation. Johnston had, according to the account Kelly gave Danielle, later documented in the inquest record and in Danielle's own published statement, controlled what Kelly wore and how she styled her hair during their years in America. He had kept her from getting a driver's license or finding work, so she had no money that was hers. He had been physically violent. She told Danielle he had held her down once and threatened to crush her skull. "How did I not see the signs?" Danielle would say later, carrying the particular guilt of a sister who'd been close and still hadn't known. Kelly told her he was controlling, that she feared for her own life and for her children's. What she couldn't know, what nobody watching from outside a relationship ever fully knows, was the precise shape of what he might do next. What she did know was that the separation had destabilized him. He had moved out when their mother died. With the relationship now ending for good, something in him had shifted, and she could feel it shift. She told her father the same thing. Reg promised that if she ever needed them, they would come. Immediately, no questions. The family built a code phrase for it. If Kelly texted saying she was thinking about moving back to Ohio, that meant danger, and they would drop everything. That signal never came. Kelly had already opened a door here. She had named the danger, named the man, to the people who loved her most. That didn't close the problem. It was never going to. The door that could actually stop him was the police. Kelly first went to police about Johnston's behaviour in late March 2021, about 3 weeks before she was killed. Officers issued a temporary protection order, a legal instrument requiring Johnston to stay at least 100 metres from Kelly and the children. This is the point the 2026 inquest kept returning to, because it establishes something the rest of the case has to be measured against. The danger was not missed at the start. Police did not simply take a complaint and file it. They assessed it. They classified it as high-risk domestic violence. Kelly was separately connected to a support service and told them too that she feared for her safety. The system, at this exact moment, knew. And then something happened that the inquest would spend 3 days unpacking. When officers later assessed Kelly's follow-up complaints, they could not see that high-risk classification. It existed in one part of the police database and was invisible from another. A structural gap, not a person's individual mistake. So she got reclassified. Medium risk. No safety plan was built for her. No referral went to a specialist domestic violence liaison officer. The door had been opened correctly. It closed itself quietly through the plumbing of a record system nobody watching from outside could have known was broken. About a week before she died, Kelly went to the Southport police station to report that Johnston had breached the protection order. What happened to that report became one of the central findings put to the 2026 inquest. It was not logged through the domestic violence process. It was logged as a street check, a category Detective Inspector Paul Fletcher told the court that was never meant for domestic violence matters. Street checks could get lost inside the system. They were not picked up in the Vulnerable Persons Unit's daily reviews. Functionally, filing it that way was close to filing nothing at all. The same officer left a note in the police database suggesting Kelly was cop shopping to get the outcome she wants. Fletcher, giving evidence years later, called that comment wildly inappropriate. The outcome Kelly wanted was for herself and her children to be safe. That was the whole of it. Here is where the pattern becomes visible. 3 separate mechanisms, 3 separate points of contact, 3 separate ways the same information failed to travel where it needed to go. A database that couldn't carry a risk flag across itself. A report filed under a category built for something else. A note that treated a woman's persistence as a nuisance instead of as data. None of these had killed her yet. Each one made the next one matter more. 9 days before Kelly Wilkinson died, Brian L. Johnston went to that same Southport police station and was charged with raping her. Offences alleged to have taken place in the months before that point. Under Queensland bail law, someone charged with an offence of that gravity cannot simply be released by the officers working the counter. It is required to go before a magistrate for a remand decision. That did not happen. Johnston was granted what the court later heard described as station bail. Former Detective Inspector Susan Newton told the inquest plainly it should not have happened. He walked out of that police station a free man. 9 days before he killed her. This is the point in the case where the 4 earlier doors stop reading as separate incidents and start reading as a sequence with a direction. The database gap meant her risk wasn't visible. The street check meant her breach report wasn't tracked. The note meant her persistence was read as a problem instead of a warning. And now, on the most serious charge yet, rape. The one legal safeguard specifically built to keep a man like this off the street failed too. At the counter, in a decision that should never have been made there at all. There was one more door left. Kelly used it. 4 days before her death, Kelly went to the Southport station one final time. Her sister drove her there. Kelly got out of the car carrying documents. She went inside. She came back out moments later, having been turned away at the front desk. According to testimony heard at the inquest, she was told, in words to that effect, to cool off and give Brian a break. There is no record of that visit in any police database. It doesn't exist in the system at all. Not misfiled, not miscategorized. Absent. The family's lawyer, Mitch Rawlings, told the inquest that Queensland Police's claim that the 12th of April was Kelly's last contact with police was simply incorrect. The 16th of April visit happened. It just never got written down. 5 doors. 5 separate moments where Kelly Wilkinson tried to move the danger she was in from something only she and her family knew about into something the system could act on. One held for 3 weeks before the classification quietly reset itself. One got filed under a category that made it invisible to the people meant to be watching for exactly this. One produced a note calling her difficult. One produced a bail decision a magistrate should have made and didn't get the chance to. And the last one produced nothing. Not even a line in a file saying she had been there and been sent away. 4 days after that 5th door, Brian Earl Johnston filled a jerry can with fuel at 3 a.m. A few days before he killed Kelly, Johnston told a colleague that if something happened to him, he wanted that person to tell everyone he was a good person. He arrived at her house that morning with a 20-litre jerry can, duct tape, zip ties, and a white powder that would later test as a sedative. He stabbed her 8 times, tied her to the clothesline, and set her alight. At sentencing, the court treated all of it as evidence that what followed wasn't impulsive. It was planned. Johnston was charged with murder, breaching the domestic violence order, and breaching bail. Police also charged a colleague, Bradley Bell, 25, alleging he had driven Johnston to Kelly's home and stopped with him at a petrol station to fill the jerry can. Bell, who was unknown to Kelly or her family, pleaded not guilty. A jury acquitted him in September 2024. Johnston spent nearly 3 years on remand before pleading guilty in February 2024, weeks before his scheduled trial. The court found the murder premeditated. Justice Peter Applegarth addressed him directly, telling him he had ignored Kelly's dignity, her autonomy, her security. Whatever your deluded and antediluvian beliefs, Kelly Wilkinson was not yours to control. Danielle read her victim impact statement, looking Johnston in the eyes. He looked away.
Family of Kelly Wilkinson's words here at the Supreme Court were devastating but powerful, describing her estranged husband, Brian Johnson, as pure, unrepenting evil. Yesterday, he was sentenced to life in prison for murdering the mother in front of her children in 2021 on the Gold Coast. But after 20 years, when he's just 55 years old, he will be eligible for parole, and the family say that this does not feel like justice for Kelly. It's now also been revealed that in the weeks leading up to her murder, Brian Johnson was charged with raping her. Those matters are before a court in Southport, and Eddie, they are expected to go to trial with more pain on the way for this family.
In the days after Kelly's death, hundreds of people gathered at rallies across Queensland. Black clothing, red roses, a minute of silence. Her name was spoken alongside Lordi Ramadan, another Gold Coast woman allegedly killed by her partner weeks earlier. Both named not as cautionary tales, but as people who had the right to be kept safe. Assistant Commissioner Brian Codd, who led the Domestic and Family Violence Task Force, faced the media visibly emotional the day after her death. Police had failed, he said. Kelly had engaged with the system, and the system hadn't been able to prevent what happened to her. Asked whether her death was preventable, he said, "Wouldn't you love to turn back time?" Criminologist Kerry Carrington of the Queensland University of Technology said what many people already suspected. A death like Kelly's was entirely predictable, and if it was predictable, it was preventable. Johnston's conviction had answered who killed Kelly Wilkinson. It had never had to answer why the system had 5 separate chances to act, and didn't. That question finally got a hearing. In March 2026, a coronial inquest opened at Southport Coroner's Court, adjourned partway through for late evidence about the fifth door. Detective Inspector Paul Fletcher told the court there had been missed opportunities. Queensland Police has since disciplined 2 officers and introduced new training and reporting requirements. A month before Fletcher testified, that same command had confirmed it was scrapping a specialist support unit. Not the one he just promised to fix, but inside it. The coroner's findings have not yet been delivered. On the night Kelly died, Danielle and Reese took in Kelly's 3 children and became a household of 10. Months later, the children asked for a birthday party for their mother. Decorations they made themselves, and afterward, one of them said it was strange singing to no one. They've done it every August since. In 2022, Danielle founded the Kelly Wilkinson Foundation for domestic violence's secondary victims, the people whose names never make it into a file.
I would like to thank everyone who has supported our family and followed Kelly's story. We would like to thank the coroner for having a closer look at the issues around Kelly's death, and we look forward to seeing the recommendations for future improvements.
Kelly Wilkinson was not a woman the system failed to notice. It noticed her, assessed her, classified her high risk, and across 5 doors, did not act. "If something happens to me," she had told her family, "I just want someone to know." She wasn't asking for a monument. She was asking to be taken seriously. She was 27. Her children are 12, 10 and 6 now. The day after Kelly died, Queensland Police's own Assistant Commissioner said they'd already had too many wake-up calls. He was right then. The question the inquest is still sitting with in 2026 is whether anyone was finally awake.